Hey guys, Brian Delivers You the Goods here. Sorry, my throat was getting a little scratchy, so I had to get some mucus out mostly. So basically, I'm returning to you for the continuation of Best Albums of 2023 video. Hopefully, I can make this quick because I gotta go to work at 1 o'clock, so I'm gonna be a little busy. This is coming out on the 27th during the daytime, so sorry that you're only gonna be able to see the first part at midnight, or hopefully, but still, I'm going to discuss what I am going to be talking about from 22 to 1 on what the remainder of the best albums of 2023 part 2 video for sections 22 to 1, and let you know my thoughts on what I deem to be on the remaining spots. So let's dive into number 22, which is Baby Metal with the Other One. Now, I think this was a really good album, in my opinion. I think Baby Metal really made an interesting concept record. Metal Kingdom was my favorite single that they released. Then we had Light and Darkness, Mirror, Mirror was pretty good. There were some other tracks too that I really did come to enjoy, but majority-wise, I think this record really pulled it off with what they wanted to go for. So basically, the only track was number 7 that I had a slight issue with. Didn't hate it, but it was the weakest. But everything else was really good. Even Monochrome was pretty good, and the closing track was outstanding. So I think they did a really good job on this record. So at number 22 is Baby Metal with the Other One. It didn't make in the top 20, but it is in the top 30, or at the top 25 at least. Number 21 is Motionless in White with Scoring the End of the World Deluxe Edition. Now, it's only like 4 songs, I believe, that were all that we had left to listen to, because the original record was 13 tracks, which the original album is worth listening to. It is such a great album and definitely offers you a lot of great metalcore breakdowns and all that stuff. And Chris Motionless's screaming is quite outstanding. But with this one, Hollow Points and the other song and Time Bomb were the only heavy songs. And then you got Porcelain Ricky Horror version. I don't know, that version was not my favorite. It was kind of my least favorite. But everything else about the deluxe edition was pretty good. So, and the regular edition was outstanding. So, pretty much at number 21 is Motionless in White with Scoring the End of the World Deluxe Edition. Number 20 is Veil of Maya with Mother. This was an interesting record. Did not think I'd really get into this band, but I really did. I actually enjoyed their music. The first track was a very intense track, but it was really good. I can't remember the first track's name, but it was quite amazing for what it went for. Sorry, I woke up not that long ago. And then you have Godhead, I believe it's called. And then Mother Part 4, then some other tracks. Red Fur was pretty good. Really enjoyed the experimentation they went with this track, or this album, I meant to say, but it's still really good, and highly recommend checking out Mother by Veil of Maya. So at number 20 is Veil of Maya with Mother. Number 19 is Foo Fighters with But Here We Are. This was kind of their saying goodbye record to Taylor Hawkins, which may he rest in peace, because he will be missed to this day. It's been almost 2 years since his passing, and it's pretty sad what happened. He overdosed, unfortunately, and it just, I guess what happened, unfortunately. And Dave Grohl's been through enough tragedy in his life. He lost Kurt Cobain and now Taylor Hawkins, and it's like there's a lot going on with him. And I think the loss of his mother, too, which is pretty sad, which I think they did a really good job on this record. This was probably their best record that I've listened to date. Medicine at Midnight wasn't my favorite, but this one was really good. I really like what they went for with this record. And the title track is amazing. Rescued was a pretty good one. Under You was pretty good. Hearing Voices kind of grew on me throughout time, but it's pretty strong. And there was another one that I did enjoy that was pretty good. There was like 2 other singles that were pretty good, and majority of the record was really good. So definitely recommend checking this album out. There is a 10-minute song on this album that sounded really good, and I did enjoy it. And it almost is the second to last song before you get to the closing track, and the closing track is a good send-off to the album. So basically at number 19 is Foo Fighters with But Here We Are. Number 18 is In Flames with Foregone. Now this was quite a great record. I actually did enjoy this album this year. Anders Frieden's screaming vocals are quite outstanding in this album. And Meet Your Maker was a great song. Then you had some other tracks like And the Transmission was pretty good. Become One, I believe, was a bonus track. That was pretty outstanding. Bleeding Out was my favorite. Then you have Foregone Part 1 and Foregone Part 2. And In the Dark was pretty good. And there was quite a bit of other songs that I really did enjoy that I could really get along and listen to. So, the 7th song was my least favorite on the record, but everything else was quite outstanding. So this was a really good album, and it definitely rocks for sure. And it made it in my top 20. So at number 18 is In Flames with Foregone. Number 17 is From Ashes to New with Blackout. This was a really good album. I think Broken by Design was my favorite song off this record. The closing track, Until We Break. Armageddon was good. Legacy was pretty good too. It's a song that's growing on me throughout time. Hate Me Too was my least favorite. I didn't hate it, but I think it was alright. And Hope You're Happy was pretty good. And Barely Breathing was good. And Dead to Me was pretty good too, along with Monster in Me, which was their most experimental track. I think with this record, they really found their sound, From Ashes to New, that they wanted to do as a band. And I think there were a lot of Linkin Park comparisons with this band, which I can still see that through this record, but not as much. Like, Heartache had something different going for it, but they were trying a little too hard with the last album for the remainder of the Panic songs being most likely sounding like Linkin Park, but I know they weren't trying to. It's just that's how it sounded to some people. But still, this record really changed and evolved their sound. So basically, yeah, number 17 is From Ashes to New with Blackout. Recommend checking this album out to see what you think of it. Barely Breathing was another good track that I did enjoy. Nightmare was pretty good too. Number 16 is Animate with Heavener. Sorry, I said Anime by mistake. Animate. I think this band actually did deliver a pretty good album. There were some tracks that I really could connect with. It's been a little bit since I've returned to the record, but I remember enjoying it from what I listened to. So, yeah, they pulled off a pretty good album, and it was worth checking out. There was a few singles I did enjoy, but I didn't really listen to any of the singles. I just wanted to be surprised when I listened to the whole album as a whole without listening to any singles. And I was pretty impressed. So, number 16 is Animate with Heavener. And give me a second, guys. I gotta pause the video. Sorry, guys, for pausing the video. I had to deal with some stuff. My mom was calling me for a second. So if you heard that in the background, I apologize for that. So to continue where I left off, Invent, Animate, Heavener was my number 16 pick. Number 15 is Holding Absence with the Noble Art of Self-Destruction. Now, this was a really good album. I really enjoyed majority of the songs from this record. It's only 10 songs, but this album impressed me with the lead singer's vocals. I think his name's Jacob, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure, but I have to go look into the band members' names. So basically, sorry for my heavy breathing. Just had to deal with some laundry for a moment, and I was walking around my house a bit, so please forgive that. But yeah, Holding Absence, The Noble Art of Self-Destruction made it at my number 15. It was a really good album. Now at number 14 is Beartooth with The Surface. Now this was a really amazing album. I really enjoyed listening to this record. The Surface, the title track, is the best song on the record. Riptide is really good. Doubt Me is pretty good. The only one I had an issue with was The Better Me featuring Hardy. I didn't hate this song in any way, but I don't think it executed in the way it should have. It was not bad, but it could have done a little better, in my opinion. Even though I do like Hardy as a country artist, I just think with this one, I don't know if I liked it. Might Love Myself was really good, along with Sunshine. What's Killing You was really good. Look the Other Way actually did grow on me throughout time, and I really could appreciate that track. And then it's What Are You Waiting For? My New Reality is really good, and I Was Alive was one of the best closing tracks to this record. So I think they did really good with this album, even though it was a more uplifting, positive kind of album. They wanted to make it very uplifting, this record, than a very dark theme, a more positive theme with this one about life and all that stuff. So basically, I think they pulled it off. So at number 14 is Beartooth with The Surface. Number 13 is Niall Horan with The Show. I think this was a really good album too. Heaven was my favorite song, and was a single that I did hear. But that was the only single I listened to from him. I might have listened to the second single, but I didn't really care to listen to it too much. But I did enjoy that. The Show, the title track, is pretty good. And I did enjoy that. But it was only like a 10-track album, but for the runtime of like 30-something minutes, it entertained me. So, really good job, Niall Horan, on this record. I think he did very good with this. And at number 13 is Niall Horan with The Show. And number 12 is Sleep Token with Take Me Back to Eden. Now this record was really good. I did not think they'd make it on my best albums. This album took time to grow on me, and I've come back and listened to this record quite a lot. They did experiment a lot with this record, I will say that. But I think the record did pull it off for what it was going for. Chokehold was my favorite of the singles, along with, I think Vor was the favorite of the singles of mine. Well, mostly my favorite of the singles. And basically The Summoning was really good, along with Granite. Aqua Regia was pretty good. Ascensionism was one of the longest songs, but did execute pretty well. But it's not as long as the title track. The title track is outstanding, and it tried different things. This band, this two-piece band, or I think four-piece now, or something like that, I don't know, did something different with this record, and they really pulled it off with their sound. And that's what I really enjoyed about Sleep Token. Vessel's vocals are quite outstanding in Are You Really Okay? And also Ascensionism, he did really good with his vocals. The melody is so depressing and haunting that it sounds really good, execution-wise. The Apparition was really good. I really like his vocals in the bridge part of the track. Why Are You Never Here? Never Real. So it was quite emotional with his vocals at that point. Do You Wish That You Loved Me is pretty good. Rain's pretty good. And like I said, Take Me Back to Eden was a almost 8.5 minute song, but it executed so well with its mixing and production. And Euclid was the closing track, and it ended the record pretty nicely. So, number 12 is Sleep Token with Take Me Back to Eden. I had a lot to talk about with that album because I've returned to the album numerous amount of times throughout the year. So at number 11 is Bury Tomorrow with The Seventh Son. This was an amazing album in my opinion. The title track is quite good. Abandon Us was good, along with Never Again, I think, was another one that was pretty good, and Bolt Cutter was quite outstanding. But I think the Carcass King and the track that has the feature artist Laws Taylor was really good. Recovery was quite outstanding, but the Carcass King was my favorite. I like the clean vocalists singing in that track. There's No Courage lyric and all that. It was quite an outstanding closing track to this record, and I think I'm most likely going to be buying this album in the new year. I just can't afford it right now, but I will be buying it in the new year. But still, at number 11 is Bury Tomorrow with The Seventh Son. Number 10 is The Word Alive with Hard Reset. The title track is quite outstanding for the technically opening song to the record. I know the first song is The Word Alive is Dead or something like that. But it's still a pretty good intro track, and so is Hard Reset being the best. And I think Telly Smith's vocals are quite outstanding. Strange Love was really good, along with One of Us featuring Noah Sebastian from Bad Omens was pretty outstanding, along with New Reality. Hate Me was pretty good. Slow Burn was good. Fade Away was my favorite, and I did like A New Empty. That was really good with Normani. I think he's an artist from a certain band, but still, or it's a band's name, I'm not sure, but still, it's a great record. And War With You and Nocturnal Future were pretty good tracks. War With You was not my favorite, but it wasn't bad. But still closed the record out pretty well, in a sense. But Nocturnal Future was a great track, in my opinion. So, at number 10 was The Word Alive with Hard Reset. I think they did a really fantastic job with this record, and it made it at the top spot in my top 10. Number 9 is Yellow Card with Childhood Eyes EP. This wasn't a long extended play, but it did execute pretty well, in my opinion, and I think they pulled it off with this record. I think, 3 Minutes More featuring Vic Fuentes from Pierce the Veil was an outstanding track. A good opening song to this 5-track EP. It's a very short album. It's like 17, 18 minutes. It's not that long, honestly. It's really not that long, but it feels like a really good 15 to 20 minute listen. So, after that is Childhood Eyes, the title track, which is pretty good. Hiding in the Light was really good. I like Ryan Key's vocals in this track, along with Childhood Eyes and 3 Minutes More. Honest from the Jump was really good with Ryan Key's vocals. And finally, The Places We'll Go was a solid one, but didn't sound bad. It just was good closing track in its own way. So at number 9 is Yellow Card with Childhood Eyes EP. I do have it on CD, but I just can't take it out right now because I put it away already. At number 8 is Stained with Confessions of the Fallen. This was quite an outstanding record. I think Aaron Lewis pulled it off with his vocals in this album. They may have sounded whiny and nasally to some people, but honestly, I think Stained really impressed me this year with this record, and this was kind of a good return to form for their regular hard rock stuff, and they did really good with this record. Take was my favorite track, even though they did not release the bonus track, Stained Vivo or whatever, or Stain the band did not release these 2 extra tracks, Full of Emptiness and Take, but they are the digital deluxe tracks. I believe they're digital deluxe tracks, but they still sound really good. Full of Emptiness was not my favorite, but it was still pretty good in its own way. But other than that, the regular album, like Better Days was good, Confessions of the Fallen was really good, and then you have The Gray was amazing, Cycle of Hurting, Out of Time, Hate Me Too was really good, then Lowest in Me, Was Any of It Real, In This Condition, Here and Now. All those tracks were quite outstanding, and the record got a 10 out of 10 for the regular edition, but the extra 2 tracks brought it down to a 9.5 out of 10 because of Full of Emptiness being a little weird with the verses, but the remainder of the track did pretty well. So overall, I think at number 8 is Stained with Confessions of the Fallen. Number 7 is Spiritbox with the Fear of Fear EP. I think this was quite an outstanding record for only 6 songs for a short album. I think Cellar Door was my favorite, so was Jaded. Too Close, Too Late was really good. Angel Eyes was really good. A lot of people said it sounded like Holy Roller Part 2. I haven't seen the video to know, but basically it was pretty heavy of a track, and I think they did very well with that track. The Void was really good. Ultraviolet was my least favorite, but still sounded alright to close the record for this short EP. So at number 7 is Spiritbox with the Fear of Fear EP. At number 6 is Polaris with Fatalism. Now, I did enjoy this record. Inhumane was my favorite, so was Nightmare, and there were some other tracks I did enjoy, like the last 2 tracks being quite good. And this was a record that they worked with the guitarist who did pass away this year, which may he rest in peace. It was really sad to hear what happened to him, Ryan something. But I think they did pull off a really good album and took their time with it. They didn't want to release Nightmare until like the end of July. It was supposed to come out at the beginning of July, but then they pushed it back 3 weeks later to the end of July, and then it officially came out. And I had that video out for 3 weeks before the actual song came out. The song did originally came out on July 6th, but then it got delayed. At the last minute, they took it down and then reposted it again almost 3 weeks later. And I had that video up for almost 3 weeks until the song officially came out on Polaris's channel. And the music video too. But still, overall, I think Polaris pulled off a really good album, and this was one of my favorite records this year. So at number 6 is Polaris with Fatalism. At number 5 is Silent Planet with Super Bloom. The theme for this record was quite outstanding, and I did enjoy what they were wanting to do with this record. And give me a second, guys, I gotta pause the video. Sorry about that, guys. My mom was calling me for a second. She needed to talk to me about something important. So basically, Silent Planet put out a really good record this year. I love the majority of the songs. Antimatter, not my favorite, but still good track in its own way. The electronic work was a little weird with this track, but overall, Offworlder was a great start to the record. The opening track was only 1 minute and 8 seconds, but still sounded good. Collider was my favorite of the singles. Euphoria was great, along with Dreamwalker being really good. I like Garrett's screaming vocals and his clean vocals through this record. And then you have Signal, which is really outstanding of a track, and Anunnaki being a really good song, and The Overgrowth was my favorite. I like the Down to the Forest lyric when it brings up his screaming vocals. Sounds really good. And then Nexus was really good, along with the 11th song, which is a interlude to the next track, which is only 52 seconds. And the closing track is Super Bloom, which is quite an outstanding closing track. to end this album. So this was a 10 out of 10. Well, 9.5 out of 10 actually, because of Antimatter being my least favorite. But overall, record is pretty good. So at number 5 is Silent Planet with Super Bloom. At number 4 is Thy Art Is Murder with Godlike. Now this would have been Album of the Year, but it didn't quite make Album of the Year this year. But still a great album for majority of the tracks I listened to for 10 songs. And I did enjoy this record. So at number 4 is Thy Art Is Murder with Godlike. I can't remember all the tracks, but I remember I did return to it from time to time throughout the year. A few times, I think in the month of October and some of November, but it still was a great record. Number 3 is Currents with The Death We Seek. This was a really good record, with Remember Me being my favorite of the songs. And then there were some other tracks that I did enjoy from basically Currents. Like the opening track was really good. And overall, this record was quite impressive. And I think for 10 songs and a runtime of like 40-something minutes, it was pretty outstanding. It was something like that, but still a great record, and was contender for Album of the Year, but didn't quite make it this year. So at number 3 is Currents with The Death We Seek. Number 2 is The Amity Affliction with Not Without My Ghosts, which is a great record, by the way. Fade Away has grown on me as the year went on for this year, and I did quite enjoy it. Not Without My Ghosts is a great closing track to the record. I think it was very emotionally driven, and they wanted to go for a track that talked about people suffering with conquering their ghosts and their past mistakes and all that. So I think this song really depicts about tragedy and all that stuff, grief, loss, all, and making mistakes and all that, and trying to learn from it. So, and the only way to carry on was with their ghosts and all that. So that's what Joel Birch sang. I have to carry on, but not without my ghosts. So he has to bring his ghosts with him to move on from his past regret, or whatever the song is mostly talking about. It can apply to anything, but it was a great closing track. And so was Close to Me, The Big Sleep, I See Dead People, Show Me Your God. Then you have It's Hell Down Here, Death in the Setting Sun, featuring the feature artist from a certain band. When It Rains It Pours, featuring Landon Towers from The Plot in You, was really good. And God Voice was really outstanding, the second to last song before you get to the title track, which is the closing track, and it's really good. And it features the artist Femme in that song. So basically at number 2 is The Amity Affliction with Not Without My Ghost. And finally at number 1, the moment you've been waiting for Album of the Year, for me at least. Drum roll, please. August Burns Red with Death Below. I did return to this album yesterday for Christmas Day because I wanted to revisit it to give a good opinion on if it's Album of the Year worthy. And it is. This is a great record. I think Jake's screaming vocals are quite outstanding. Premonition was the opening track to the album, and then you get to The Cleansing, which is 7 minutes and 48 seconds, which is quite a epic track with what they went for with this track overall. And then you have Ancestry, which is really good. Then you get to the other tracks after that. Backfire was my favorite. There was a 3-minute song that was like an interlude to the Backfire track. As you progress through that track, after that track is Backfire. And then there's Dark Divide. Then there's 2 other songs before Dark Divide after Backfire. And one of them's like in a 1 and 23-second song before you get to Dark Divide. And then comes The Abyss after the song before that. And that was a great track with JTKV from Era. I really enjoyed that song a lot. And the screaming vocals from both Jake and JTKV were quite amazing. And then The Reckoning is the closing track with Spencer Chamberlain from Underoath, which is quite an epic track to close this record. And it is almost 8 minutes long, but it is outstanding. So, did enjoy this record, and it was Album of the Year worthy, so congratulations, August Burns Red. You became my Album of the Year for 2023. So that is going to be it for Best Albums of 2023 video. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I got to get going because I got to go to work in like 20 minutes or so. I took a little longer than I thought for this video, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will be returning to you for Best Movies of 2023 video in the next day or so. But with that being said, thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day, and thanks for enjoying the Best Albums of 2023 Part 1 and 2 videos, and I'll see you in my next video.